everyone, welcome to this demonstration video of the Creatachain Crosschain Layer 2 bridge with EVM support. This demo is currently running on a testnet. The first thing we need to do is move to the Crosschain Layer 2 section and connect our accounts through the extension. This allows us to send transactions to other addresses. As you can see, our account is now successfully connected to the platform. Next, let's look at the available networks we have for cross-chain transactions, including our Catena network, Binance, and Ethereum. This setup allows us to send transactions between Catena, Binance, and Ethereum. Firstly, we need to select the appropriate networks in the From and To section. For this demonstration, if we want to send a transaction from the Catena chain to the Binance chain, we must select these networks. Next, we need to select the asset. You can see the assets displayed here, including CTA, the native token, and DAI, another native token of the Catena chain, along with WBNB and WUSDC, which are tokens deployed on the Catena chain. If a user sends BNB from the Binance chain to Catena, it is received as WBNB. We will proceed with transactions one by one to demonstrate how this works. First, we will send a native token CTA. In return, we will receive WCTA on the Binance chain. To initiate, I'll enter the transaction amount, which is 0.02. After setting the amount, the next step is to set the sender address. If I turn off this toggle, it will send the transaction to the same address on the Binance chain. If I click on the toggle, it prompts me for the recipient address, which I'll enter now. We will also use this address for subsequent transactions. Now, to send the transaction, the platform asks me to switch the network. Once the network is switched, I can proceed with sending the transaction. This screen shows that the transaction will be sent from the Catena chain to the Binance chain to the specified address. Next, I'll confirm the transaction, and the screen will display both the estimated and the total fees that will be deducted. After entering the password, the transaction will be broadcasted on the network. Once I click send, we'll wait a few seconds to receive a transaction hash indicating that our transaction has been completed. If I click on the hash, I can view the transaction details on our Catenachain network, showing the interaction between the addresses and confirming this as a contract interaction with the transferred amount. Next, if we go to BNB and paste the address where we sent the assets, we can verify whether the address has received the asset. We can see that 0.02 CTA has been received just 35 seconds ago. This demonstrates how you can send assets from the Catena chain to BNB. Selecting the native token of the Catena chain, which is DAI, we expect to receive WDAI on the Binance chain. After entering the value and pasting the address, the next crucial step in this token case is to approve the tokens first. Without approval, we cannot send the tokens from this chain to the Binance chain. Thus, the initial action is to approve the tokens. Once approved, the Send button becomes enabled, and the Approve Tokens button is disabled since I have already approved the tokens. Now, by clicking on Send, we will confirm the transaction. After confirming all the details, I enter the password. This will broadcast our transaction on the network. Let's wait a moment. You can now see the transaction hash here. By clicking on the transaction hash, we can view the transaction details. The transaction has been broadcasted, showing that one ERC20 token has been transferred. Now we go on the Binance Smart Chain to check whether the address has received the token. We search for the address on the Binance Smart Chain and go to the token transfer section. You can see that we have received 0.02 DAI in this case. The remaining case involves sending WBNB from the Catena chain to the Binance chain. I will now select the value of 0.02. Now, I'll close this toggle. Consequently, the tokens will be sent to our sender address, which in this case also acts as a receiver address if I turn off the toggle. If I click here, you can see the summary of the transaction, confirming that both the sender and recipient addresses are the same. We'll confirm the transaction and then view the details on the Explorer to see how it works. After entering the password, we will observe the transaction on the network and wait for its confirmation. Now, the transaction has been confirmed. We can view the details of the transaction on our Explorer. I will expand on the details. It's a contract interaction, and here we need to verify the same address that is our sender in this case. I click on this address, copy it, and then go to the Explorer to paste the address and view the transaction in our internal transaction section. If I go into the internal transaction section, you can see that we have received 0.02 BNB that we sent from the Catena chain to the Binance chain. Here you can also see the details of the transaction, showing that 0.02 BNB has been transferred to this address. This illustrates how the bridging process works from the Catena chain to the Binance chain. For now, if we select the Binance chain that we want to send from Binance to Catena, I'll choose the asset. Suppose we want to send BNB, in that case, we'll receive WBNB on our Catena chain, which will be 0.02. And then I'll initiate the send. The system is now asking me to switch the network from Catena to Binance, as the transaction must be broadcasted from the Binance chain, as we are sending the transaction from Binance chain to Catena chain. Next, we'll confirm the transaction details, and after confirmation, we will enter the password. And after entering the password, we can send the transaction from Binance chain to Catena chain. Now, we'll go to the Explorer and see the transaction. You can see that the transaction has been broadcasted from the Binance chain to the Catena chain. We will see the transaction details here, that the deposit native 2 function has been called, and the coins have been transferred to the Catena chain or Catena network. If we go and check the address on Catena, we can see the transactions that we received BNB on this network as WBNB. We'll go into the internal transaction section and see how the transaction was received. Now, you can see we have received this transaction. Here are the details of the transaction showing that WBNB has been received on the Catena chain. Now, we return here. And we will transfer from Ethereum to Catenachain. In the Ethereum section, the first thing we will do is send the Ethereum that is native, and then after this, we'll send the native tokens and those tokens as well. Now, I select the same address and try to send the transaction. It will ask me to switch the network. I switch the network, and after successfully switching, we'll send the transaction to another address. Now, we'll confirm the transaction, and I have to enter the password. After entering the password, the transaction will be broadcasted on the network. We'll wait for the confirmation. As we are using the public nodes for now on the testnet, it's taking more time. That's why we are waiting longer to publish the transaction for broadcasting. When we move to production, we will run our own nodes locally. Our transactions per second TPS will be improved, and the transaction will then be instant. As now we are using a public node, it has network conditions, and it will take some time for the transaction to be broadcasted. Now we can see the transaction details here on Sepolia, which is the testnet network of Ethereum. We can also see the details that this amount has been transferred from here to the other addresses. Now, if we go on the Catena Explorer and search for the address there, we'll be able to see the transaction. Now you can see the transaction that it has received the amount from this address, showing that this amount has been received from this address to the specified address. Now the next thing we have to do is send USDT, the native token of Ethereum, to our Catenachain. Now we'll get the USDT, and if I carry on the transaction, we will see that we will receive this amount. Now we have to enter the password. After entering the password, we can move to the Catenachain. Now, after the confirmation, as I've already told you, these are public nodes, or due to the traffic of the network, it takes more time to broadcast the transaction. For now, it is slow, but in production, we will use our own nodes, so we can expect faster transaction processing and broadcasting. Now, we can click on the transaction, and you can see the transaction is broadcasted, or in the process of being included here. We'll wait for a while, and you can see the transaction here. It's taking some time, and after this, our transaction will be there. So now you can see the success scenario that our transaction has been broadcasted here. So now if we go on the Catena and search for the address and see that the transaction of the token that we have received. Now we will see the transaction here. And in the transaction, we will see the summary here. So now we'll click on this, and we will see the summary of the transaction. So this will be done. So after this, the next thing is I can show you the contracts that have been deployed on the Binance Smart Chain and the Ethereum chain. We have basically two contracts, which are L1 standard bridge and L2 standard bridge, that are deployed on Binance for the REP tokens and for the native tokens. And the same is the case for Ethereum and for Ethereum testnet. So now, these are the things that have been done so far. And this is how you can transfer from one chain to another chain. This is how we can achieve cross-chain transactions. For now, we have limited pairs. Like you can see, we have USDT, WLink, and WCTA for now. But we can create as many pairs as we want. We can deploy the contracts over the network, and we can create as many pairs as we want. and we can do the transaction in the same manner as well. So this is how the cross-chain layer 2 works. Thank you so much.